particular case. However, that's not to say that reduced resources won't impact natural disaster forecasting in the future. It is true, though, that the staffing levels of the NWS have already been reduced thanks to Doge. So in total, the NWS lost 600 of its approximately 4,200 staff, causing several offices across the country to operate without the necessary staffing. However, climate experts' opinions on whether the staffing cuts impacted the response in Texas are a little bit mixed. Some said that the NWS forecast and flood warnings last week were adequate, as adequate as they could have expected to be. And then there is the lack of emergency warning system along the Guadalupe River, which local officials have been talking about for years. So since 2016, the topic of a flood warning system for Kerr County has come up 20 different county commissioners' meetings. In March of 2016, then Commissioner Tom Moser noted other Texas locations had these state-of-the-art flood warning sirens, but they weren't used locally, even though this is probably one of the highest flood-prone regions in the entire state, according to the meeting minutes. But the county was not able to secure FEMA grant funding to implement the system, so it seems like there is a multitude of factors that contributed to the very high death toll, and it seems to just keep climbing. It is hard to assign blame on any one person or policy, though. Some Republicans are accusing Democrats of using attorney to score political points, which is something they definitely wouldn't know anything about. But similar to Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, he scolded anyone trying to blame their political opponents for a natural disaster. By the way, this is the same guy who blamed Democrats for the Los Angeles fires and then threatened to withhold disaster aid from California. But I'm sure that has nothing to do with this right here. Also, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt agreed with Ted Cruz. Take a look. And many Democrat elected officials are trying to turn this into a political game, and it is not. This is a national tragedy. Do you think those comments are depraved and despicable, especially with so many Americans on warning?
How optimistic of you, Corey.
But staring them down from across the ring is a proven winner and a current champion.
The title isn't up for grabs in this one, but being champ is still all about dominance. So I'm sure this superstar is hoping to grab the win in quick and decisive fashion. Uncork the big punch.
Joe Biden for the flood. Who said this? Oh my God!
Gotta hurt.
If you
That kind of force in the arm can have lingering
that was
effects.
really the Biden
Stomp to the gut. And stop it away in the corner. Just ruthless. Look, the most intelligent competitor in a battle knows that there are many roads to victory, including the low road.
Right before the show, reporting came out that if anyone is to blame for the slow emergency response, it might actually be Kristi Noem. As the Homeland Security Secretary, she oversees FEMA, and she recently enacted a rule that any contract or grant over $100,000 requires her personal sign-off before the funds can be released. So it was meant to be a cost-cutting measure that she was implementing for the department, but it's obviously not the most efficient. It cuts a lot of the autonomy that the department would have. So when FEMA would have started to act like sending help and resources and aid to the affected area, they quickly realized that they were unable to do so, and they just couldn't do so without getting Kristi Noem's approval. So I want to go back to that Trump quote, because I read it and I was like, what? If you look at that water situation, that was really the Biden setup. What do you think of that? I don't know what that is. What water situation, what Biden setup did?
All their body weight.
It's so nonsensical. And the thing is, like, this river is, it flows through the Texas Hill Country. It's a very popular tourist destination, especially this time of year. It's already so far from Texas. That is where you go to float. You go to the Hill Country. There's trees, there's shade, and you float the rivers, and it's a very nice time. But the thing is that this is, I think this is a problem which faces a lot of Texas. They don't want to spend a lot of money on preventative measures, right? And as you saw from those meeting minutes in Kerr County, they didn't spend the money on getting those sirens for the flood warning system, even though that is an area that was very prone to flooding. I know here in Houston and in the Galveston area, there's a lot of concern about the Galveston seawall, which protects a lot of the inland places and the island of Galveston from hurricanes and from storm surges and things like that. And it's also kind of like it's a big problem Because here in Houston, we have the Houston Ship Channel, which is like a lot of oil and things like that. So they really just they don't invest money on these preventative measures because if a big hurricane did come, which is not out of the question, and it would direct hit on Houston and the Ship Channel, which is not out of the question, it would be a disaster, not just for Houston, not just for Texas, but for the whole country.
He's still in the fight, but for how much longer? Big
That Trump statement, it honestly reminds me of Ron Burgundy from one of the greatest movies ever, Anchorman, and the fact that he's kind of just programmed to read whatever is on that teleprompter. Trump is programmed to blame literally anything and everything on Joe Biden. It just doesn't.
You can see the frustration starting to build.
The situation is, what the topic is. If it has a potential to make him look bad, it's going to reflexively blame Biden as if Biden and his administration built up the infrastructure in this town in Texas. Like, as if
millimeters. Listen, that should have ended
to do
things.
with this, and it's
And look
even
at his
it's
face
made
at this
even
point. You have to
more
believe he's
rich
losing some faith in
by
himself.
his press secretary going up to the
superstar
station
giving an
and
inch
blaming people for political reasons. And Trump does exactly that. It's amazing that that clip came right before me. Oh, that's cheap. That's just like the Democrats. It's more cheap. Let's get some people in there. And it's just like, blame Biden.
Exhaustion setting in, and neither one of them is letting
In our situation,
With
in that
impressive
situation,
determination from
That's
both
what
competitors, keeping at each other no matter what.
I feel like it.
This is a war of attrition with neither superstar wanting to be the one who surrenders.
And
now these two
like if Joe Biden after like digging canals in Texas, like I don't know what he thinks is happening.
This exchange right there.
That whatever comes out of his mouth, his biggest fans find plausible. And so, like, if he can get just those people on board, then it's worth it to do, even if it's the most blatant, ridiculous lie.
I mean, no, you're absolutely right. I remember during the polar vortex in Texas, this is like, I lived through it, but for the rest of you guys, live here. In 2021, there was a big freeze that hit Texas, and our electric grid froze over. Everything was a disaster, and Texans died because they froze to death in their homes, while our surrounding states who were also hit with similar freezing temperatures, they were just fine because of their electricity. But I remember our governor and Trump, they were on the news talking about like windmills. And they're like, oh, it's the windmills' fault. The windmills are faulty, and that's why all this is happening. And also, it's only affecting Texans, and also there are windmills in like northern countries that are doing just fine and are going through the winters, and they're not causing people to freeze to death in their homes. But they said that, and so many Republicans and people who are watching Fox News, they were just like, oh, it was the windmills. We got to get rid of the windmills. And that was the narrative that flowed all the way across Texas. And it was like an active effort on behalf of like other people to be like, that doesn't make any sense. And if you just think about it for 2 seconds, you would know it doesn't make any sense.
Every time I ring the bell, an injury gets us race. Totally untrue. It does keep you updated on promotions.
Bear hugs. Bear hug. Well placed elbow. We'll get you out of it.
That might be enough. Yes, it is.
Had it scattered and met with a back elbow. He's heading up top.
Thinking big.
Incoming. Oh, big impact. Turn the lights out. Good night. 2. Oh, and he just kicked out. Where in the world is he getting this from?
His beating heart will not be stopped.
Oh, once more. Set. Oh, and he doesn't connect. Lariat. Playing possum. Shoulders down. No, stops the count at 2. How?
Coquina clutch.
Coquina clutches in. The matchup's over, and an attack, and an ambush, and this is ridiculous.
Back was
Calling for the cage to come down, guys.
Plan's about to backfire. Yeah, nowhere to escape now. You're locked in that cage.